You know, I remember a time in my life where I could sleep till noon almost every single day. Now I'm up when the sun comes up almost every single day. Over the past few years, a lot has changed. But that's what life is, isn't it? A series of changes. Every day something new. Every day it's a new change. Some are subtle and inconsequential. You just don't even notice them. Some are so huge you can't help but stop and say, wow, that just happened. Some are good. Some are bad. They're just horrible. But there's one thing that's never changed. And it's what my grandpa Wyatt always used to tell me. He'd always say to me, he'd say, Kevin, it's never too early, nor is it too late for coffee and bacon. So while I wait for the sun to finish coming up, I'm gonna go ahead and fix me some. If there is a better way to start the day, then I just don't know what it is. Have you ever seen anything so beautiful? You might be sitting there wondering, who the hell is this guy? Well, why don't you go ahead and take it? Are you sure? Yeah, go ahead. Hey, I'm Kevin. And I guess I'm here to tell my story. Now, it's a story you may have heard before. It's a story you may know something about. It's a story you may know someone who's going through something similar. Or heck, you might be going through it yourself. I don't know. But it's not going to be better than anybody else's. It's not going to be different from anybody else's, maybe. But it will be filled with my idiosyncrasies, my redundancies, my bad jokes, my sense of humor, and, of course, lots and lots of bacon. So, as I sit here and finish up my bacon and my coffee, or at least this cup of coffee, and it kind of looks like the sun's almost up, so I'm going to finish this up and I'll meet you outside. Oh, sorry. As I sit here and think about my life, where I've been, where I'm going, in the future, even where I am now. I sometimes sit and wonder why I'm not curled up in the fetal position, bawling my eyes out, or locked up in some insane asylum, laughing my full head off. The first time that I saw you, you were sitting there. You were looking so beautiful. I just knew I had to have you. And then the first time my lips went around you, the warmth coming off of you, I knew it was going to be something special, something that will last a lifetime. And I was right. We've been together for I don't know how long. It's just amazing to me how much you mean to me. I can't imagine my life without you. Coffee, bacon, y'all complete me. Sitting here, watching the birds fly in to the feeders to eat. I don't know what it is. It brings me such a peace. The bacon, the coffee and the cigarettes might help, but there's something about sitting here, watching the birds feed, that's just so awesome, Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, the beginning. Well, I'm not going to start at the very beginning. No birth details or anything like that. But, you should know that I'm the type of guy that will try to help anybody. I've gone on mission trips. I've helped build and repair houses from time to time. I like hanging out with my friends, drinking the beer, having dinner, whatever it is, just being with my friends. And well, I can find humor in any situation. But I try to hold it in the best I can, because a lot of times my humor is not appropriate. Okay, fine. I make the sarcastic, smart-ass comment more than I should. I'm a little active. I like to go hiking, camping. I've thrown my kayak on the river, lake. I like to paddle around. I have done some scuba diving. Heck, I even went bungee jumping one time. I'll never forget that moment. Coming home after bungee jumping, and Mom was waiting for me. She asked where I had been all day long. So I told her I went with a friend of mine up North Alabama to go bungee jumping. My mom, her reply in her sweet Southern mom voice. Well, if he went and jumped off a bridge, would you do it? I sat there for a moment, and all I could do was laugh. She didn't know what bungee jumping was, so I had to explain to her. That's exactly what I did. I stood on a bridge with elastic rope tied to my ankles and jumped off the bridge that was 300 or 400 feet in the air. I was immediately sent to my room. Now, I've done my fair share of traveling. I've hit the biggies, New York, Miami, LA, Chicago, New Orleans. Heck, I've even been to China and to Russia. I've done a lot in my life, I guess. But right now it's time for some more coffee. And, well, yeah, it's time for a shower. Then, on January 2nd, 2000, I woke up and my ring finger and pinky on my left hand were completely numb. It was like they were asleep. No matter how much I shook my hand or rubbed on my fingers, I could not get them to wake up. Something was going on. Everything had gone cattywampus. Everything was weird. It was walking towards a dancing alien weird. Nothing was normal. I am a southpaw, so if the numbness and tingling had been in my right hand, I would have paid it no never mind and just kept going. But because it was in my left hand, off to the doctor I went. Well, the doctor said it might be carpal tunnel syndrome. I looked at her square in the face and said, maybe if it was in my butt, I might agree with you. She didn't think it was as funny as I did. Anyway, she told me that if I wasn't any better in the next week or two, if I ever call, come back, she'd run more tests. She gave me a little prescription, said this should help. After 3 or 4 days of going to the doctor, the numbness and tingling had moved into my entire hand. My hand was starting to be like a claw, and I couldn't hold on to anything. And that numbness and tingling feeling was slowly moving up my arm. It was almost to my elbow. So I called the doctor and went back. She stuck me in the MRI. After the MRI, they took me to the little waiting room. Said to wait here, the doctor would be with me in a little bit. Well, after about 2.5, almost 3 hours, the doctor walks by and she looks at me. She says, "What are you still doing here?" I kind of shrugged my shoulders and said, "They told me to wait for you." Well, the doctor kind of shook her head and apologized for me having to wait so long, sat down next to me, and said that we've made you an appointment with a neurologist. Did I have a stroke? Was it a brain tumor? She goes, "The neurologist will tell you." So she gave me my MRI scans and a letter to give to the neurologist. The elevator doors had barely closed before I had the letter open reading it. I didn't know what it was saying. Something weird about the deterioration of myelin sheaths in the white matter of my brain. I didn't know what that meant. I was freaking out, I didn't even know what myelin sheaths were. I went to the neurologist appointment. A very, very good friend of mine went with me for moral support. She said moral support, but I think it was because she knew I didn't always say what was wrong with me. I mean, my standard answer is, I'm fine. The neurologist looked at the MRIs I had, and he read the letter. He poked and prodded at me a little bit. He goes, "Well, Kevin, I think we're going to draw some blood. We're going to run some tests." And, he listed off like this huge list of things it could be. And he told me, he goes, we'll test the blood and we'll see what it is, what it could be. If nothing shows up in the blood, we'll probably have to do a lumbar puncture, a spinal tap. Well, I just kind of shook my head at that and said, could we just call it one of these things and not worry about the lumbar puncture? He laughed and shook his head, said, "No, Kevin, we just can't do that." Have I mentioned I hate needles? Like, really, really hate needles? They sent me down and drew about 30 gallons of blood and then sent me home to wait for the results. About a week later, they call me, "You need to come in for your spinal tap, your lumbar puncture," whatever you want to call it. I was not happy. I just didn't. But I went. Now, if you've never had a lumbar puncture, they use a needle that's about as big around as your pinky and about like this long. They jab it into your back to draw out the fluid. So that's what he did, and said, go home, take it easy. We'll just call you when we get these results back. So again, I asked the neurologist, did I have a stroke? Was it a tumor? Something like that. He just kind of shook his head and said, no, it's nothing like that. So I was a little bit more relieved, but still freaking out that I still didn't know what was going on with me. February 16th, 2000. This was the day that everything changed for me with one simple phone call. I had started back to school by this point. I was working on my second degree, and I was sitting in my psychology class when my phone rang. I saw it was the doctor, so I jumped up and ran outside to answer it. Hello?
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes, this is he.
This is Jessica, the nurse at Dr. B's office.
Yes, ma'am.
The doctor got your results back, and you do have MS. He wants you to come in Monday to talk about treatment
All right.
options.
Thank you so much. All right, see you then. Bye-bye. I hung up the phone, collected myself. My mind was running like a million miles an hour. Head was spinning. I didn't know what to think, to be honest with you. So I decided to suck it up. I'd go get through the day. I could get through the day. I went back to class, and I was almost to my seat. Almost to my seat. Teacher stopped teaching and looks at me and goes, well, I hope that was an important phone call. I looked at her, and I said, well, it was my doctor confirming his diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. So, you tell me, was it an important phone call? Well, I gathered my books and I left. Now, that was not how I should have handled it. It was definitely not the way I wanted to announce that I had this incurable condition. The car ride home was interesting, to say the least. I mean, how was I going to tell my mom and dad? They needed to know. How was I going to tell my friends? I sure wasn't going to tell them the same way I told the people in my class. But you know how it is. I got home, I let my mom and dad know that the doctor called me and told me that I had multiple sclerosis. Told them that I had an appointment on Monday. We were going to discuss treatment options. I tried to keep calm, tried not to show how upset I was, to keep them calm. I didn't want my mom freaking out. I didn't want my dad freaking out. I didn't want them to feel what I was feeling, what I was going through at this moment. So I kept calm and I let them know, just flat out. Monday rolled around and I went back to the neurologist's office for my appointment, and we went over some of the treatments. At that point in time, I think there were like 5 treatments. There was no cure, just all the treatments were to slow the progression down, to help with the symptoms. They were all injections, and as I mentioned, I hate needles. Absolutely hate being stuck with a needle. The 2 options were monthly. One was twice a month, one was weekly, and one was every day. He gave me all the information, sent me back home to go over it and figure out which one I thought would be best for me. My friend that had gone with me to the original neurologist appointment, where they drew all of the blood and said I might have to do lumbar puncture and everything, well, she was also a pharmacist. So she was my first call, and I called her and said, The doctor gave me this list of medicine and asked me to go over it and think about which one I would prefer. I went over to my friend's house after I called her, and we kind of went through all this stuff. She had a better understanding of the medication, obviously better than I did. Once a month, I'd have to go every week to have blood drawn so they could test my liver and kidney functions to see how it was affecting them. With the twice a month, I would have to get when I do the injection, I'd have to go and get a blood draw. Just again, to see how my liver was handling it. And then the weekly one, well, no blood draw. I looked at the side effects of each one. We went over them. She kind of explained them. All had flu-like symptoms with it. All had injection site problems. All of them, there were goods and bads to all of them. I decided to go with the daily injection. Less side effects. I could handle some flu-like symptoms. If I did it before I went to bed, it would probably be best. I could do a normal day and then sleep through the side effects. And that's what I did. So I went back to the doctor and let him know what my decision was. So he wrote me a prescription, gave me some more information, said, it's all the medicine is really expensive, even with insurance. Here's forms you can fill out, try to get on these programs to help subsidize the cost. I said, all right. Well, I called my friend who is the pharmacist. She was working that day. Told her that I was coming in to fill a prescription. She asked what it was, so I let her know. When I got there, she just kind of shook her head and goes, Kevin, you're not going to believe how much money this costs. 1 month prescription, 30 days of injections was $2,250. That's just 1 month. With insurance, dropped it down a little bit. It was still over $2,000. I went ahead and called Dad and said, Dad, this is how much the medicine is going to cost. He had a couple of words for the pharmaceutical companies, but went ahead, we got it. I got home, read on how to inject myself, looked at some of these forms, talked with my dad, and we filled out the forms to see what kind of deal I could get. Thank God I got accepted. Turned out that I could get a 3-month supply shipped to the house, and they would send me the medicine at $75 for a 3-month supply. $25 a month versus $22.50 a month. I jumped on it. Filled out the paperwork. I was in. They sent me everything before I'd run out, before I had to drop another $2,200 on medicine. I got my first shipment in April of that year. And I started injecting myself. Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely hated it. It became the new normal for me. Monday here, Tuesday here, Wednesday in my belly, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I slept through the worst of the side effects. I was getting insomnia really bad at that point in time. And the coffee intake had, thought it was bad now, you should have seen it then. I was like guzzling it. Speaking of, but that's how my life was now. I still thought I was the only one who was going through this. And after about 6 months or so of suffering alone, I realized I'd been going through the 5 stages of grief. I was bargaining as best I could. I was in denial for a long time. You know, this wasn't happening to me. I got hung up on the depression and the anger way longer than I should have. I felt alone. I felt that nobody could care for me. I felt like I was turning into some kind of monster. I was dealing with this monster known as MS. When I started telling people what was going on with me, how was I going to deal with it? How are they going to react? Was I going to be rejected? Even more so than I already was. But, you know, I fought the depression best I could. Actually, no, I didn't fight it. I denied it. I was fine. I was fine. I didn't talk to anybody. I put on a smile, let my humor take over even more so. Kept going. November of that year, met up with my mom, dad, and brother for some dinner at a local Chinese restaurant. While we're standing there waiting to be seated, my brother picks something up off the counter and looks at it and hands it to me. Well, it's a brochure from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society on the upcoming Birmingham Walk for a Cure. He goes, "You should think about doing this." Well, I read it and looked at it and thought, I'm not the only one in Alabama that has multiple sclerosis. So I said, maybe. So I shoved the brochure in my pocket, no intention of following through. I went ahead and did it. I had a fun time with it. It was hard. It was only 3 miles, granted. It was rough on my old fat body. Old fat body. I'm still fat, just not as bad as I was back then. Like I said, I did it, and I had fun. Raised quite a bit of money for them. Well, the next year rolls around, and I thought, what the heck, I'll do it again. I did it about 3 years in a row. I knew I wasn't the only one that had it. All these fundraisers are just awesome. So much fun getting to hang out with the different people. I was still feeling depressed. I knew I wasn't the only one dealing with MS. And going through these walks, helping out with them, visiting them, talking with different people with MS, they seem to all have the same, what's the word I'm looking for? It's called a theme. A theme, that's right, that's what it is. But this theme that kept going through the conversation I would have with the people with MS was blessings and hope. And again, I was still in the depression. And I would think to myself, how are these people calling MS a blessing? How could they have hope? The depression started lifting. I was getting into that acceptance part of the 5 stages. Well, it took a while. There were some bladder issues that went along with this last relapse I'd had. But I was getting better. I had to have, there were some things still wrong with me that I needed to have done, I needed to take care of, and me and the doctor handled them. She said, "We're going to put you on this medicine. I don't care what you say." The relief was it was a pill I could take. They had progressed so much that it was no longer injections. It was a pill I could take. Granted, there were some worse side effects. Again, I took them at night so I could sleep through the majority of these bad side effects. She tested my blood, again, MRIs every few months just to check me. Doing good on it. I was able to walk again. I was able to pick up where I left off. I was fortunate in that respect. I kept going. blessings continued. I met some good friends, people I still talk to. Small relapses, nothing big or major. You know, I'd lose feeling for a day or two, or I would hurt more than I should have. I had, you know, what they called the MS hug, which is like you're being squeezed along your midsection. I had it, you know. I would deal with that 2-3 days tops, knowing that every time I felt that, something else was going on. Everything was going fine. No new lesions in my brain. The relapses I was having weren't bad. I could deal with it. I was fine. Well, about 5-6 years ago, I had a really bad relapse. I mean, really bad. It knocked me on my butt. I could not walk. I couldn't stand up. I'd lost all feeling basically from my waist down. Spent a couple of nights in the hospital. They shot me full of steroids, which is kind of a typical if you have MS. Got in touch with a neurologist. She said, yeah, I'll be over there in a few minutes. She was at the hospital. She kind of looked me over and said, okay, you're going to come, when they release you, you'll come to the office. We're going to do all this stuff. I said, okay. Got released. Again, MRIs. Again, blood was drawn. Again, you know, all the typical stuff. And she started me on a steroid infusion. Said, we're going to do this 2 times a week. So you be here at this time every day, or for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Well, 2 days a week, I was back over there getting shot up for a couple hours with steroids. Started feeling better, got my legs back, started able to walk again, started walking some more. I wanted to keep walking, so I'd go out, you know, continued my challenge walk training regimen. Would walk 7 or 8 miles every Saturday, a couple of miles during the week. Things that were happening to me weren't the end. I've been doing good since then. About 3 years ago, I hiked part of the Appalachian Trail. Spent about 2 weeks on the trail. I started at the trailhead in Georgia, hiked up into North Carolina. It was absolutely beautiful. A lot of beautiful scenery. Only saw one bear. You know, it walked across the trail in front of me, paid me no never mind, but I sat there froze thinking, this is how I'm going to die. Little word of advice though, if you're going to hike the southernmost portion of the Appalachian Trail, don't do it in July because it is hot. But I was able to do those things that I like. I was still able to get out, take some pictures, walk around, you know, just do the exploring that I always do. Then in 2019, another change. What I thought was just my sinuses bothering me turned out to be bacterial pneumonia. Of course, I ignored it because I thought, it's just my sinuses. Takes a little medicine, it'll go away. Never went to the doctor. Well, it turned septic on me, and I got to spend about 4 or 5 days in a fun-filled hospital. When it did turn septic, it affected my body in a bad way, and it caused my MS to go crazy, I guess. Caused another relapse. And it has slowed me down even more to where I have to use a cane now. And that's okay. I still get out. I still get out and about and goof off, and I'm able to hike and take pictures of the scenery and the birds I see. Even hiked down to Peavine Falls over at Oak Mountain State Park. It took a lot out of me. I did it though. Cane and all. I did it. Went up to Grace's Gap. Absolutely beautiful overlook of the Birmingham city skyline. I go to different parks and walk around, taking pictures. Aldrich Gardens. It's absolutely beautiful. I just wander around and look at things, taking pictures. Limestone Park, Ebenezer Swamp. It's all fun for me. Just because I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, it didn't mean my life was over. Yeah, it's changed. It takes me a lot longer to do certain things. I get tired so easy, the fatigue is worse. I mean, I know I'll never be able to climb Mount Kilimanjaro or anything like that, but I have fun. If you're watching this and you've just received a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, you're not alone. Far from it. People are out there wanting to talk to you. Find your niche. They call MS the prime of life disease because the majority of the time it strikes you when you're in your prime of life, in your 20s and 30s. There are children who are diagnosed with MS. Don't get me wrong, it's bad. Reach out to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society or the Multiple Sclerosis Society of America. They can point you in a direction, help you get help. Help you get help? That sounds weird, doesn't it? But they can. They'll be able to point you in a direction, get you in touch with people, get you in touch with a specialist in MS. If you find yourself depressed, don't hold it in. Find somebody to talk to. Go see the doctor. Talk with them about your depression, about what you're going through. People are wanting to help. Yeah, I know I've kind of joked around a lot throughout this, talking about the MS, talking about this monster. That's how I deal with things, the humor in me. Don't go through what I went through. Be brave, be strong, yes. Be determined. Absolutely. You're going to get through this. We're stronger together. MS is a disease that will change your life. It's changed mine, maybe even for the better. It's made me realize what I have. It's made me appreciate everything and everybody that's in my life. You're going to get through this. If you're a caretaker who's watching this, not that I expect anybody to watch this, but if you are a caretaker, know that the person you're helping that has MS, it's going to take a lot. They're going to need a lot of help. They might not admit it. They might not want it. Even me, I can do that. Go away, I can do it. Even now, with the cane, it's like, I can do that. Leave me alone. I got it. I'm fine. Don't forget, you're not alone. We are in this together. If you've received a diagnosis with MS, leave a comment or whatever below. Let me know how you're handling it. I'll be happy to talk with you too. I'm no expert. I'm just a normal, everyday guy who wants to help you if I can. I don't have a cure. There's still no cure for it. Treatment options are a lot better than they were when I was diagnosed. When I was diagnosed, the treatment options were probably better if you were diagnosed even earlier. There's hope. Don't give up. Keep going. We're all going to be good one day. When in doubt, talk to somebody who has MS. Don't go on the internet. You'll freak out. I still go on sometimes and I was like, Kevin, you're a moron. Get off the internet looking at this. I know what MS does to you. The depression, the anxiety, the what's next. I know the symptoms. They're not all the same for everybody. The general symptoms are the numbness, the tingling, the confusion, the brain fog is what I call it. That's what most people call it, I think. Cognition problems, that's the word. It's not brain fog, it's cognition problems. There's bowel and bladder issues some people have to deal with. That MS hug, it's rough. You can get through this, I promise. Talk to somebody. Your doctor, a friend, somebody who has it. We're all in this together. And together we can make a difference. Thank you if you've made it this far in the video. It was kind of like having MS, very painful to sit through. I just want to say again, there are resources out there for people living with MS, for people who are caregivers, for people who want more information, for their loved ones, for you yourself. There is help, there is information. Reach out to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society at 1-800-344-4867 or visit their website at nationalmssociety.org. You can also contact the Multiple Sclerosis Association of America at 1-800-532-7667 or visit them at their website at mymsaa.org. Don't give up. People are there. Leave me a private message, comment below if you have MS. I want to know. You're not alone. We're all in this together. I know I keep repeating myself. I warned you at the beginning there will be redundancies. You might be able to benefit from an online support group. You can go to healthline.com/health/multiple sclerosis for a list of online support groups. They might be able to help you answer your questions and get the help you need. Dealing with people online and in anonymity, yeah, it has its own set of problems, but the ones listed on here are reputable and good. Don't give up, people.